Welcome to Revolutionary Motion, where we show you tennis from a different perspective. If you're someone who's struggling to add topspin or slice or any other type of spin to your tennis shots, then here's an easy way for you to understand what the most efficient way to add spin actually is on the tennis court. So now let's first take a look at what spin is. So spin is the ball turning. So now obviously the ball can turn in lots of different ways. The ball could turn forward or backward or could turn slightly sideways. And in order to add that type of spin to the ball, you can see what I just did. I'm moving my racket up or down or to the side on the ball. Now all those motions create different types of spin, so it's really important that you understand what type of spin you're trying to create. If you're trying to create topspin, your racket has to move up on the ball. If you're trying to create slice, your racket has to move down on the ball. Now you can give it slight variations like Rafa Nadal's banana forehand, on which he will not just move up on the ball, but he will actually move up and around the ball like this. So the ball will turn slightly this way. So that means if you hit it towards the right, it will curve back inside the court. So that's what they call a banana forehand in tennis. And it just means that you add a little bit of side spin on top of that top spin. Now you could add side spin on top of the slice, obviously, as well, which makes the ball curve in one of the directions, either to the right or to the left as well. Now, in order to do this efficiently, you don't just want to move your racket up only. It seems counterintuitive because what you want to do instinctively is just to move up on the ball as much as possible so you give it as much topspin as possible, or move down on the ball as much as possible to give it as much slice as possible. But what you actually want to do is you want to make sure that you're hitting forward into the ball while trying to move up or down into the ball. Now what does this do? It's very simple. It just simply deforms the ball and the racket on impact a little bit more since you're hitting the ball harder. So you have more of that trampoline effect, creating more power. Now you might ask yourself, but Clemens, how does that help me to create better or more efficient or even more spin? If I'm trying to hit forward, don't I waste a lot of energy going into the ball and hitting the ball flat? And the answer is no, you don't. As long as your forward motion also has an upward or downward motion as a part of it. So if you're swinging forward, since we just defined that the contact point will be longer because both the ball and the racket will deform more because you're hitting straight into the ball, you know you have a longer contact point, and you also know that means that you can have a longer period of time that you can add friction or spin to the ball. So now if you're trying to hit a topspin ball, you could either, just as we mentioned before, just swing up on the ball. And yes, you would create a decent amount of topspin, but because the contact point is so short, if you're just moving straight up on the ball, because the ball doesn't deform in the racket, you don't have that trampoline effect, the amount of spin you can add to the ball is actually not that high. So in order to give it more spin, you want to make sure that your swing is more forward. And you will feel when you're moving like that and you're still moving up through the contact point with your wrist and your arm and your racket, that you now have a heavier contact point. It feels like the ball is holding on to the racket for a longer time. That enables you to feel that you have a longer contact point and thus a longer opportunity to actually give it topspin on your shots. Now the same thing applies to slices. You're trying to hit more forward. So now I'm going to add some side spin as well as some regular underspin or slice to the ball while hitting forward. And watch how much that ball can curve. And the more I give it, the more power I give it, obviously the faster it goes, but that also means the slice or the side spin will unfold a little bit less. But on a slice, that's a good thing because the ball will now skid on the court more because the impact angle on the ground is more flat. Now it's really important that you keep in mind that on every single shot there's a good ratio of how much you hit forward and how much you're giving it spin. So you have to feel out how much forward motion is required and how much spin is required in order for you to get that desired effect on the ball. Now I will show you a quick exercise that you can do in order to get a better feeling for how the ball has to feel on the racket when the racket and the ball deform and you feel that longer impact and that longer contact point. So what you're going to do is you just take a ball and a racket and you get to any type of wall. It could be even at your home, inside your apartment or house or wherever you live. And all you're trying to do is put the ball against the wall and put your racket against the ball. Now you have to apply a little bit of pressure because otherwise the ball will obviously just fall down. So be careful with that. But try to develop a feeling for how much pressure is required for you to feel the ball on here. And then try to squeeze a little bit harder. If you're squeezing a little bit harder, you will see how the ball starts to deshape or deform. And now when that happens, you can start rolling up and down on the wall. And you can do it quicker or slower to get a feeling for it. Now this is really important because you can see how the ball changes its shape slightly if you apply more pressure. The less pressure you apply, the less it deshapes. So that means that the more pressure you put on the ball, the more you will see that the contact point in turn would get longer. So that's the desired effect that you're trying to have when you're actually playing a tennis shot on your forehand side and backhand side. Now, as you're rolling the ball up and down, you can see obviously that the higher or lower you are on the racket, the more you're away from the center of the racket, the tougher it is to keep your racket in position and the tougher it is to make sure that you can treat the ball the way that you want to. The same thing applies to you when you're hitting your forehands and backhands and you hit the ball off center. Here you will feel a lot of pressure pushing the racket out of place and you have to be strong enough with your wrist to push through the ball and not lose control over your racket's angle in the process, no matter how hard the ball came at you. This exercise will help you to make sure that you understand the amount of force that is required for you to make sure that you push through the ball without losing the angle, the impact angle that you're trying to create, and still be able to turn your racket over the ball to give it topspin or under the ball to give it slice. In conclusion, make sure that on your forehands and backhands you swing through your shots rather than just swinging up on the ball by making sure that your racket follows through forward rather than just moving up, so you can create more topspin in the process and make sure that your topspin is under way more control.
Hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe and we'll see you guys soon.